on it would show
Okay,
a
that
little
seemed to help.
blue light or something.
Oh, good. Okay, I think we just addressed with the feedback we had coming back through this end. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm still waiting for 2 people. Who is that? I think Charlotte?
Charlotte's here, I think. She came online, but I don't.
I'm here.
Oh, you are, Charlotte? Are you
Not logged on in the computer, though.
I'm trying. I'm having an awful time with my computer.
okay?
That's okay. It just doesn't want to work. I even had the guru out here. Let's see. I'm trying to log in now. Make sure I spelled it all right.
Is Valerie on? No. Okay, Brenda. And Nancy. Okay. All right, so I have a couple minutes after. I think the only one we're missing is Valerie, and hopefully she'll be on in just a couple minutes. And so what we'll do is get started, and I just want to thank you guys for sending in some really good summaries. There were a couple that I tweaked only for the purpose of the presentation, meaning that I shortened them a little bit because they were so long. You couldn't see them on the screen, but hopefully for the folks that I did that for, you received what I sent you back so you would have your notes, and I think that the bullets won't be far off from what you shared. If it becomes an issue that you can't remember some points or something, I did copy off your originals, so I should have those notes here if you don't. So good job, I think, overall with the interviews. I hope you enjoyed them. From the little bit of correspondence that I had as people were sending them in, it seems like you did. So I'm looking forward to everybody hearing what you learned. So in just a second, I'm going to promote all of you to presenters. And that means when we get going and it gets to your set of slides, which I did this alphabetically, you will go down to the left-hand corner of the big, what they call pod, so the big square that has the presentation in it. You'll see 2 arrows in the left-hand corner, and that's what you use to advance your slide. Does everybody see those?
One more time in the the arrows. Got it.
Yep. See those 2?
Got it.
Everybody
I'm still
set?
trying to log on, Heidi.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I was in the left-hand.
Did we just get Valerie? Oh, no, did you just get in, I think? Charlotte, maybe?
No.
No, not yet. Something changed.
Well, you're with us in spirit, right, Charlotte?
Oh, you got it. I got big bubbles blowing here. It's one of those days.
Charlotte, you know what?
Who aren't they all lately?
We
Yeah, I
have
know.
you on first because of alphabetical order, but we can wait just a little bit and see how you're doing.
I'm trying to reconnect right now.
Okay, so we'll just wait, and I have a couple of just things to share. So don't anybody touch the screen for a minute because we'll keep moving. But we can actually have a lot of fun here if you wanted to, just by flipping back and forth, but it probably won't be very effective in terms of getting through what we have to. So we just wanted to start out by a quick review of some of the key sustainability principles we talked about last time, just to set the context for today. Then we'll do the presentation of the interview summaries. Again, that'll be in alphabetical order. We'll talk about, I'll try to summarize the key points that Rod and I saw as we reviewed your summaries, and then we have a couple of questions that we'd like to just discuss with you more about this online course and your thoughts about it to help us plan for doing these in the future. After doing the last one, Jennifer Ward with IIMC contacted us and said, would this be something you would consider offering to clerks out of state if we could add this to our list of online courses? And so any feedback that you have that can help us, I mean, I think theoretically we think it could certainly make sense and we'd be happy to open it up, but any feedback that you guys can give us to tweak it as we, if there's anything we should do to tweak it before going that broad, it would be good to hear that. So, and then we'll just touch base on final steps, which is just a reminder that if you haven't filled out the online learning assessment tool and the evaluation, which you guys will do after this, it's just a reminder to you to do that. So we're going to move into some of the key, the key points from, this just makes me think that, did something get switched when we loaded this? I did have the key points I thought in a slide, but we'll work with it. So the things that what were some of the key things that we heard about? What are key points about sustainability or key principles that we talked about last time? Does anybody want to share thoughts on that?
Trying to include the town.
Yep, so engagement.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Engagement with
Education.
people in your community also.
Okay, pulling in your community, and did I hear communication?
Communication.
Okay.
And education.
And
I think
education.
communication is key.
So having an engaged and educated citizenry that feels like that they can participate in the decision-making process.
Right.
Okay, other thoughts about what sustainability is?
Shareholders, I guess that's the same thing.
Yep. Is it just,
Promoting the good things that we're already doing.
okay,
First of all, assessing what you have in your community that could be tied to sustainability.
I think that's great. Actually, that's something that we'll talk about because interestingly enough, that didn't come up in any of your presentations. We didn't, and I think we did talk about evaluation and assessment and planning. Some of you talked about planning as part of sustainability in your communities, but no one really talked about kind of assessment, where you are, and figuring out where you're going. I think the other things that, and this may just be so obvious at this point that it nobody's thinking to mention it, but I think the other key things related to sustainability is that it's not just ecological, which when we talk about greening our society, I think we tend to think about the environment, but it is engaging the community, so there's a social piece of it, and certainly the economic opportunity, and that's something that came out loud and clear through your interviews. It just struck me that there was a lot about fiscal management, fiscal accountability, and so not only managing our money wisely, but just making sure that the initiatives we're taking on in terms of sustainability are things that are economically viable, because there's a sense, I think, that if they're not viable, then we won't be able to sustain them and in turn sustain us. So the other thing that I think is important to note is just that it's a reference to both what's going on now, which I think some of you were just alluding to, but also being ready to sustain and have those resources in the future. So it's living in the present with an eye to the future, and then again the importance of planning and tracking progress. So we just wanted to use those just to set the context for moving into your presentations, and I think you'll see that these themes come up over and over again. So how are you doing, Charlotte?
My deputy just got me in.
Oh good, okay.
Okay. Just loading now.
Okay, we can give it one more sentence. I'm just going to flip through this and make sure that the presentation that I thought had been there earlier is still there.
Oh, that's a fast class.
How'd we do? We told you we'd get you through this. Okay, it's all there. I just must not have somehow lost that slide in between. So.
I'm wiped out, and now all of a sudden I've got 2 sessions. I think I've got yours, Charlotte.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So
Little
next,
one?
next
Yeah,
year,
there you go.
Okay.
during
Little
next,
and little too. I don't know what. And I'm sorry that I sent the wrong. I thought I lost one slide and I sent you the wrong one. I didn't know which one was missing.
it's okay. I just want to point out that next year during the Clerks Institute, we're going to have a speed reading class, so we can conduct things like that.
Thanks.
No, I think, no, all kidding aside, I think that was one of my recommendations, because we have to read so much. I would love to learn speed reading.
Actually, I think it was, now that you mentioned that, Leslie.
Yeah.
I remember seeing somebody say
Yeah,
that.
I think I did.
Okay, Charlotte, you're on. Great. Your presentation's up, so we'll let you just flip through it. Do you see where those little arrows are at the bottom?
At the bottom, yes.
Okay, so if you just push the one facing the right, that'll move you forward.
One at the right, I see it. Okay. Here we go.
There you go.
The supervisor was infrastructure continuance, financial situation, administrating financial affairs and expenditures, rural quality, maintaining economic, environmental, and health issues within the area, and living within one's means, community and individuals. we have so many summer weekend people, it's very hard to let the full-time residents mesh, and it's getting harder and harder. The vision for the community, sustainability, fit with your own, maintaining stability in our rural area is of great concern. Our community has become a suburb to many surrounding cities due to the easy accessibility by car, train, and/or air. Do you want me to read these, Heidi?
I think it's okay just to summarize what you felt like were the key points, because folks can glance through those, but
Okay.
how did what you heard from the person you interviewed, and can you remind us of who that person was again? I think it was up on the main page, but just...
It was the supervisor, the board, and the highway superintendent.
Okay.
And Charlotte, remind us where you are in the state and which community?
I am way out by the Massachusetts border, northeast of Albany.
And what's the name of the community?
Canaan, New York.
Yeah, okay, that was up
We're
there. So.
15 miles from Pittsfield, Mass.
Okay.
Okay, so
That's good
we're
context.
very rural, but the city folks love us. Because we do have the lake in the summer, and we're close to Jacob's Pillow and Tanglewood. And it's a nice isolated area. We don't have we have no commercial activities in town. The only thing we have is the transfer station and a few home occupations. That's about it. The farms have faded, and most of us that are here full-time are struggling to make ends meet. We just went through a full evaluation, which was created due to a lawsuit of the assessments 3 years ago, and that was part of the settlement agreement. And many people are up in arms about that again, because surrounding areas are not at 100%, which we are being brought up to. Let's see. What else? Rural. Maintaining the rural environment. We have very strict zoning laws on what people can build on, the acreage, and guidelines of, we have private wells, private sewage. People still come in and want to pay their water bill. I was told I should start my own fund. But we haven't done that.
Could be another homegrown business or commercial enterprise.
Yeah.
So are these folks who moved from a more urban area and they just kind of forgot that?
Yeah, well, we have them that even move up here. It really started after 9/11. People, I think, could see the economy failing, so their investments, they wanted the cash and they invested in real estate, which was out here and was low at the time. So they were paying cash, high premium prices for the land out here. And they come for the summer, the family stays for the summer, the husband or wife will work in the city and travel back and forth by train at night or on the weekends. For summer, we have many children here, which most of the children that are here and have grown up have left because there's no jobs around in the area.
And so when you were talking about in your vision of sustainability, when you mentioned the infrastructure, is that part of the issue? I thought that was just interesting that it's hard just to fund infrastructure development.
Yes, it's very hard. The new supervisor that we had, this is his second term. He's been in 2 years. He's retired Wall Street, but he is excellent with the finances. He even gave us all a raise this year, which we didn't expect. But he has kept the town taxes down. He's very savvy with the finances, which is a relief.
I thought that was really interesting in terms of a lot of the folks, I think as you'll see that we go through the presentations, mention just again making sure that whatever activities were taken on in terms of moving towards sustainability were economically viable, and you really emphasize not only that, but making sure that the current fiscal climate, that there's accountability and really tight finance management was the sense that I got from your comments, Charlotte.
Oh yeah, it's number one priority.
So
previous administration unfortunately went through all our surplus and everything, so the new supervisor has recouped that and keeping us all online, which is good.
It said to me that in your vision of sustainability, it's, as you put it, living within one's means, but also, again, what can we do with what we have before we're out spending more to make other advances in terms of sustainability. So I thought that was interesting.
They just took a new cell tower company came in. It took them 5 months to get approved through the planning board, which they were kind of upset with, but we're picky where location is and everything. And now we just formed a wind power company ad hoc committee to review the options of having residential, because there are small residential windmills you can put on your own personal property. So that committee is going to research all of that and maybe incorporate it in the zoning laws.
So I think, do you want to move forward in terms of talking about what some of the other opportunities and challenges are, Charlotte? I think you just captured some of those.
The challenges are trying to draw our young people back into the area, create businesses or something that, they all love to come back home, but there's nothing here for them to build and create their own, their own investment in life in the area. The highway is doing a fine job. They have a 5-year plan and they stick by that, and they go out for all the grants that are available. Commercial zones, there's no draw. The restaurants that were here have closed because they couldn't make it in the winter. What else?
So you said that there are opportunities to take advantage of the commercial, so there are existing commercial zones that...
We are zoned, and we
Okay.
have the main highways around the center of town are zoned commercial. And we do have a transfer station, which has been profitable to the town and helped us tax-wise, because we do get a tipping fee from that company every month. And each resident is allowed to dump their own garbage twice a week. We have 2 times a week at no charge. You have to bring your own, but there's no fee.
And I thought it was interesting that a lot of folks emphasize the role of youth in moving towards sustainability, but I thought it was interesting that you pointed out that you have some of your senior residents can't stay in the community because there aren't amenities to serve them.
It's very hard. We do have a senior group that meets here, those that are able to get out. We do pick some of them up, bring them to the town hall, and they have a lunch every Wednesday upstairs, and they have certain activities, and the county will come out and explain what's out there for them. But transportation is a big issue for those.
And I think that's something we hear quite often across the rural communities, and I think it's really important. If you think about communities being one of the pieces of sustainability, if you can't meet the needs of your residents, and particularly I think folks who have been there a long time, which presumably...
It's hard because they're valuable. They can give us so much of the history of the area and everything, and when they move away, it's gone because it isn't written down, a lot of it.
Okay, and how about inspirational activities?
Well, as I said, they had created the wind power ad hoc committee to help just overseeing what's available, grants, the fiscal situation around the area. And I haven't been able to come up with any ideas to include the students that are here, high school students. I have had some come in and help with disposing of outdated records, archives, and stuff like that that could be shredded. They come in like 2 hours on Thursday night when I work. And they're just not here. Sports and things are all elsewhere. They're not in our area. So it's very hard. The churches are dying out. that we had in town because the people aren't here and can't support themselves. So I'm open to any ideas that I could bring within, our means.
I think the wind power unit seemed like a neat thing to be exploring, and nobody else seemed to be thinking about it in terms of individual residences, but more across the community with big plants. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, we had one person that wanted to put it on, and it wasn't in the zoning, so that triggered the whole committee. I mean, we do try to include the whole community and everything with the ideas that come about. And they were really hard workers. I can't complain about them not working together.
That's good. Well, that's certainly a good asset and something that other communities aren't as fortunate to have. So.
Right. No, we have a strong group, and those that are here really try to make things work. So
that's good.
I appreciate it. I've been here. Well, this is my 19th year as clerk, and I've seen many changes.
Okay. How about, did we cover what you think of as clerk's roles in that?
Well, my biggest role is to communicate what people come in and tell me. I try to communicate to the board and have those ideas incorporated into things that people have addressed as concerns. We're just closing out tax season. Many people say they get nothing for their taxes, but then you point out a few things we do get and what we have here that is available to them. And it's working with the residents. I mean, summer is totally different from what we have through the winter months as far as people coming in. My biggest idea is I'm open to ideas that I could, present to the board.
And I think that's something that somebody else mentioned in their summary, is just the importance of being open to innovation and trying new things. So, and seeing that as an opportunity. So,
right. We do have a lovely summer program for the children, and we have swimming lessons at the lake. We have a tennis court across from our park, from our town hall, basketball pavilion, things like that. The summer residents they thrive on that.
All right. And I just want to point out that I think originally we talked about giving you guys just a couple minutes, and you're realizing I'm going quite a bit over that, but
yes,
because
move on.
No, I'm not. I didn't mean it that way, Charlotte. I just wanted to explain, because we had initially said that, but we do have a little bit more time to go into detail because we didn't have as many folks on as we initially thought we were going to. So I think it's good to be able to explore these things. It's a nice luxury in some ways to be able to have a bit more time. So, Charlotte,
do envy larger areas because they do have more open to them to create more ideas and work with families and children. And I think it's the children that we have to focus on right now. Work with them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Charlotte, because then you get them involved, and if you think of you, because you're so motivating in your office as a hub and inviting the kids in, and I don't know if just little simple programs like mock town board meetings, so they see where you sit when you're in a meeting, and
right.
Maybe you get people involved in government, or that they'll be excited about staying there, and when they grow up, or coming back and getting involved in government, or volunteering, and just keep yourself as that hub and the great communicator.
Well,
what's going on?
we try.
And blow bubbles with them, and they'll be happy.
Okay, I can do that. I pass them out quite frequently. Okay, I'm done, Heidi.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions or comments for Charlotte?
They're all blowing bubbles, Heidi.
All right.
And I think we'll now, we wanted to get through the first one, so we'll probably comment less while the person's going through now and save our own comments and perspectives at the end with everyone else now too.
Okay.
So Karen,
Yes,
you're on.
I see this. I interviewed
Pat Pavelski. She's the Executive Director of the Cornell Cooperative Extension here in Ontario County. And I kind of went after Pat because she's such an easy person to speak with. And just a highlight of information, she was a nominee for the 2009 Athena Award. Should have won, but...
Someone has joined the conference.
So,
Hi, it's Valerie.
Hi, Valerie.
Sorry I'm late.
It's okay. We're just starting to move through the presentations, and Karen is talking about her interview.
when I sat down with Pat, we went over, briefly went over the mission of the cooperative extension. And their mission is to help the community be self-sustaining. We went into the interview, and she knows the extension is always looking at practices within the system, particularly now is telecommunications, because they can reach out and educate people, and the community can join in online rather than having to go to classes. And so that part of the economics is playing a key role in their education and trying to be in touch with the community. Let's see. They are always out to promote self-sustaining skills and knowledge, and a big part of this is in the farming community. We have a huge agriculture, a lot of farmers, a lot of truck farming. We have a lot of beef and dairy industry here, and it is a major industry in this part of Western New York. We are located about 40 minutes south of Rochester, and as far as, if you look at the New York State Thruway, there are actually 4 exits on the thruway into Ontario County. So in a way that doesn't sound that rural, but it is very rural and very agriculture. We sat together and tried to define what our community was. She looks at it as the whole county, which includes 2 cities, 16 towns, and 8 villages. They're all customers of the extension, and they are all customers of sort of the county, and I work for the county. In our county, we have well over 100,000 residents. The last census was just over 100,000, but we're one of the few counties that is growing in population. So it depends on the next census, what our next number is. And a big part of what they do, it's important to remember cost and economy. She also said to sustain the extension's mission, the extension relies on the county for some funding, and then they get a lot of support from Cornell University. I really think they're one of the bare bones beneficial organizations in any community. They provide so much knowledge, and all you have to do is ask in many cases. When considering a sustainable practice, and you mentioned assess what you have, I probably should have inserted that there, because first you should assess what you have and then decide, is it efficient as it is? And can it continue to sustain it? And if not, should you consider consolidation? Would that be good or would that be bad? We have one village that is considering dissolution, and that's always a hot topic. In the past, we did dissolve one village probably about 20 years ago, and it actually went very well. Challenges and opportunities. A big part of education now is computer and information technology. Years ago, no one ever budgeted this in their annual budgets, but now you hardly ever find a desk that have a computer on it. Online education promotes new practices, and it's an open-minded culture, and it's certainly something that younger people and youth go to immediately. They go to a computer much sooner than they go to a book. The extension works to assist individuals to remain independent. A big thing is to keep the elderly in their home and in their own personal environment, and they do a lot of education. Say an elderly man becomes widowed, never cooked for himself, they have online cooking classes. They have cooking classes where they go out to senior places, and they help a lot of people in this way. Another thing she mentioned was we have a 4-H camp, and the kids cannot bring their cell phones or their iPods or their video games, so they're kind of left out without any electronics. But a big interest now is they have discovered cooking. So it's funny to think that now kids are going back to cooking when that was like the only thing I ever learned at home, I think, when I was a kid. So, and that is a self-sustaining activity. If you can teach a kid to cook, he'll do fine. Inspiring activities, independence and basic skills. You can never stop learning basic skills, even when you're older. You never stop learning. So this was a big thing that they continue to do with all age groups. Our discussion revealed that in order for each of us to acquire and maintain independence, we continually need to refresh and update our basic skills. One key point she mentioned was common sense has given way to convenience. Maybe we should redefine convenience. Relearning some basic skills can move people away from relying on convenience. Some people don't know how to cook, and they're out there at the fast food place. It costs a lot of money, it's not healthy, so get back to cooking. When it comes to roles for the... I tried to come up with something, and we have an employee workforce of about 800 plus employees. We do a newsletter, we have an editorial board, they're always looking for articles, and I thought it would be good to first do an article to see how many people within the workforce do something that is sustainable, recycling, reuse, that type of thing. And when I got a lot of information back, I wanted to put a second article out to say, look what your coworkers are doing. One lady in another department, she just decided to save old coffee cans and please put your used batteries here. And it's something she did on her own. It's nothing instituted by policy or, department or anything like that. And small things like that make a big difference. So I'm hoping to see what's out there. And I got a feeling there's a lot of employees who are excited to do stuff like this. And maybe we'll start a trend. And I think that's all I wrote.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Karen?
Karen, just a comment. This is Rod. Of course, I was delighted to see that you interviewed an executive director, and I will say that Cornell Cooperative Extension does have a strong commitment to sustainability and wants to work in partnership with those in their own communities, and it sounds like that came out in your conversation with Pat.
Yes, it did. She's a great person.
Any other questions or comments?
I like the idea of helping people see at an individual level what little things they might do. So I think that's a great idea, Karen.
Thank you.
I also would just add that I thought your emphasis and Pat's emphasis on the potential for education around sustainability through computers was really interesting. I sometimes get frustrated at how often my children want to be involved with electronics, but it just makes me wonder, because that is what they're working with all the time. What are the opportunities to work with them to help build those skills for them and other kids through those resources. So
I think you're correct, and I'm going to share something in a minute, but I went to speak to a school today, and I handed out a little brochure that I have about dog licenses, and a fourth grader came up to me and said, can I look up your website online? And I was like blown away.
because that's what they were ready to do. I'm not sure, we just seem to have lost that, but hopefully we're back up. Okay. I just thought that was interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Leslie. And
I have something else to tell when it's my turn, though, about that class.
Okay. And I would also, the only other comment that I wanted to make about the last presentation was just, I think it's a really neat way, Karen, to think about engaging, where Rod was mentioning the individual efforts, but also at the same time potentially involving hundreds of people in that process by just recognizing what they're doing and using that as a way to help educate other people. So I just thought those were some neat ways to think about how you could contribute across the board. So.
Well, I hope I'll be surprised and get more than just a few.
You'll have to, if it's easy to, when you compile that, share that back with everybody that's participated in it. I think it would be interesting to let other people know what's going on too. So.
Okay, I'll do that.
How about Christine? Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, great. And you're okay with the arrows and everything?
Yes, I'm
okay,
fine.
Great. Go ahead.
Okay. I interviewed Gail Waxenberg. She's a trustee that she's been on the board for about 4 years. She actually just decided to not run again, but she spearheaded the Open Space and CAC, which is the Conservation Advisory Council. She was the trustee point person, so I just thought that she would be an important person to talk to about this. Her vision is, well, as you can see, the process of living in a fashion that secures and sustains our natural resources, greening ways of living from a green market, oh, it's jumping back and forth, and preservation of open space. Briarcliff Manors in Westchester County on the Hudson River, it's pretty largely developed, I guess, as most of downstate is, but we do have considerable sized parcels that are not developed. So they're looking to try to preserve that within the community. You know, there are several ways that we are trying to green our village. We recently installed, LED lights, and actually yesterday we were awarded a grant from NYSERDA for $250,000 to put solar panels in at our DPW. So it's just a big push down here. I think as it is everywhere, to just green our environment and our workspace.
Christine, where did you say you're putting your solar panels? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
On the rooftop of the Department of Public Works.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and actually they just awarded it yesterday. It's part of the ARA money, the stimulus money, which we also received another grant of $18.8 million earlier for a potable water system, because we are always in a crunch to get water that's clean for our residents. So we've actually done pretty well with the stimulus funds. Well, I already said that she spearheaded the open space. Challenges, sustainability is a catchphrase that most people don't understand. Education is, and I agree with her, education is key to promoting new practices. I think, just a little bit of education goes a long way as far as, teaching people the right way to be. A lot of people are used to their creature comfort, and it's hard to break people of old habits, and I think that that's important, to make them realize that it's not really that hard to just be a little bit more conscious of what you're doing. And we recently upzoned a corridor of our village to an R80 zone, which is an acre and a half. And there was a lot of feedback from people because they really did want to see open space maintained here. But you are also balancing the property owner's rights, because you're taking away their ability to subdivide that parcel and build 2 homes instead of 1. So the board tried to balance that as best as they could, and they were able to upzone 100 acres, which doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but here that's a pretty large amount of land. So inspiring activities, we implemented a policy here that on village properties we would only plant non-invasive native species, and we encourage everybody that gets a building permit or goes before the planning or zoning board to do the same. It's not mandated, but it is encouraged. I just said installation of solar panels. I actually wrote this before we got the grant. We were intending to do it, but now the grant is going to help us, to pay for it. So we're replacing the windows, doors to be more energy efficient. We have a no idling campaign in our village, where if you just turn off your car, it'll help the environment. It's mostly when people are picking up their children at the park or at school, they keep their cars running and they don't realize what that's doing to the environment. So we've posted signs, to try to prohibit that. We have an event coming up called Stash the Trash. It's just a community-wide cleanup event, and it's on April 24th. We have a weekly farmers market here. I already talked about upzoning. I'm sorry for rushing through this. I think I'm getting the flu, so I'm kind of under the weather a little bit. The roles for clerks. I think clerks are the key to communication in their municipality. We need to develop forums for dissemination of valuable information, and we need to set an example for best practices. If people see us acting inappropriately, then they're going to think that, why should they do anything? So I think it's very important that we act appropriately at all times. And I'm into somebody else's now.
I think that's a really good point. I know that one of the things that I want to do is, in a team environment, is work with our Cornell Cooperative Extension offices to make sure that they're walking the talk when it comes to sustainable practices. So, in terms of their use of energy, in terms of whatever it might be. So it sounds like you're trying to do the same thing at the village level.
Right, and I write, it's called the Manor Monthly. It's a monthly newsletter. I intend to have, articles in there. I usually do, I don't know if anyone was affected in the recent storms, but Westchester County got hit very, very hard. Just like tree trimming, that goes a long way. Just maintenance of your property. We're having a compost bin sale and rainwater catching devices, just so, there's a lot going on around here as far as greening the village. So
I think one thing that struck me too about your summary, Christine, was just the balancing of private versus public interest, because I think it probably rings true for everybody everywhere. Is I think we're needing to make really difficult choices, potentially to move folks forward, and I think a lot of them center around that private versus public interest. So I think that was a good point there.
Right, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Yes, on your grant for the solar panels, what was the dollar amount again, Christine?
$248,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very successful. We did not expect to get as much as we did. So, I think
What's the population of your?
around 8,000.
Oh my golly! And they give you
Wow.
48,000 for panels.
Yeah, and I don't know if we also got 18.8 million.
You're right, for the potable water.
Yeah.
Oh my golly! How wonderful!
So there's lots of grant money out there.
Oh yes. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
We could actually, it just made me think in terms of moving more towards sustainability. We just had a webinar on exploring the green economy yesterday, in which this was 2 days ago, Linda Dickerson-Hartsock, who is with the Clean Tech Center of the Tech Garden in Syracuse, New York, and is focused on promoting green enterprises, but talked about all of the different green areas that there are stimulus money to support, and they're willing to help it. So I can point you folks to some resources if that's helpful. I'll just write myself a note that might have some funding opportunities for your community. So
Great,
Definitely.
Well, that would be great.
great.
I saw that webinar, but that was my town board day, so I couldn't participate.
the presentation is going to be up online. We were not able to record it, but the actual PowerPoint will be up there too, Betty, and I can send you the link for that. So I'll just send the link, which will have additional resources as well as the presentation, if anybody, or as well as the PowerPoint, if anybody wants to take a look at it. So
Thank you very much.
sure. Okay, other questions? Okay, Betty, I think we can move on. to you.
Okay, let's see here.
I think that's mine.
Think
Oh,
that,
I'm
yes,
sorry. Yes, Leslie, you're right.
right.
I'm seeing Betty up on the screen, and
Hers looks just like mine. How does that happen? Okay, I'm ready. I'll go on. When I sat down at the New York State Town Clerks, the New York Association of Towns meeting, Betty and Marie Little and I had a wonderful conversation with comparing and contrasting. After getting back, we realized it wasn't exactly to the letter of the assignment, but we appreciate the fact that because we did gain a lot from it, and we wound up going together to a class right after that having to do with sustainability of a town right outside of Rochester. So what we did was the three of us had a conversation and came up with the idea that whether we're talking about a small population, and I consider 7,710 fairly small, Marie's town in Royalton, or a medium population of Southold, which is about 22,000 people, or a large town such as the one that I come from, North Hempstead, which is almost 250,000 people. We had very many similar ideas and similar goals when it comes to sustainability. That the community, we want to maintain a lively community with the involvement of the people that live in the community. So the involvement is really a very important key. And I'll talk about communication in a minute, but part of that, just part of it, not all of it, is the importance of green initiatives going forward. And again, I totally agree with what you said before. None of us talked really about the assessment of what we have and where we have to go as much as what we see towards the future. We talked about the importance of keeping people there by providing jobs, having job availability, and by attracting young professionals to keep the communities going in the long run. Both people that I interviewed then agreed upon the importance of education, or all three of us actually, and both people I interviewed did talk about involving the residents in the decision making and being innovative, being creative, and not always doing things just the way they've always been done. And that's a challenge of changing minds from some people, and no matter what size the community, they see, gee, it's always been done this way, why do we have to change? So it's always a challenge, but it also provides the opportunity through good communication and through something that we call here in North Hempstead the visioning process, where we reach out to the community, have them sit down and say, where do you see the community going? What do you want to see on the waterfront? What do you want to see in our town? Some of the inspiring activities from Betty and from Marie, Southold is promoting a dark skies legislation, and I'm sure Betty will probably tell you about a little bit more about that. North Hempstead is planning a LEED certified community center in Westbury. It's one of the most efficient ways, even though it's a little bit more expensive to create this center. It is the highest standards of quality assurance and keeping the heat and cooling, and everything that they do, that they put in, is the most energy efficient. In talking to Marie, Royalton gets small groups together that have diverse interests and work to make the community better, to clean up the area, to keep it safe and to keep it clean. And what we do in North Hempstead, we have events such as, and excuse me for not being able to get those little squares on the left to match in the right place, because it's not a separate item. But we do clean sweep and Eco-Fest, a festival to invite kids, and clean sweep each spring, where you measure and you weigh how many pounds of trash you've swept from the streets. So we're keeping it clean, we're keeping it safe, and we're keeping it as attractive as the other communities are, no matter what. So keeping it a nice place to live. as far as the roles for clerks, what came out in our conversation is that the town clerk is the hub or the front door of the town, being able to spread information to groups throughout the town, and I think that's come out in almost everybody's conversation. We can work with school students, which I'm going to tell you about in 1 minute. We all talked about the libraries as a place where we can gather or we can spread information. Senior groups is a very important thing. Again, that's come out in a lot of different ways. In North Hempstead, we started something which is now a model for the entire country called Project Independence, keeping people, the seniors, in their homes as long as they want to be there and as long as they can be there. And as licensing clerk and maybe more in the Long Island metropolitan area, I license all the taxi companies. So we're working with the taxi companies to provide low-cost rides or free rides through a grant to the grocery store once a week. And we're now expanding that program to give low-cost rides for medical appointments for the seniors. Those are the two things that have been identified as two of the most important things. Obviously going to the grocery store, and if they're in one shopping center, going to the bank, the cleaner, whatever. And we can also, all of us talked about urging grocery stores to mandate signage so you remind the shoppers to get in the habit of at least saving trees by not using a new bag each time. So the other part of the clerk, let me go back to education a little bit and the school students and tell you just as an aside, and as Karen DeMay said a couple minutes ago, you never stop learning. And I went to visit a class of 4th graders from a local elementary school and told them about this project I had to do, and told them, even though I had done my interview, that I needed help with my homework. And I told them that we never stop learning and explained the program I had gone to. And I asked them 10 things that makes our community a great place to live. And at the end, I taught them the word sustainability, but I'll give you the 10 things really quickly because I don't want to take too much time. Number 1 was open space and trees. Number 2 was a lot of stores to buy things. Number 3 was properties where there are entertainment and sports, places for entertainment and sports. Keeping the community clean through recycling, fresh air, having cities or beaches nearby, education, jobs available. Number 9, activities for the kids and youth. And number 10, keeping it a safe place to live. So I kind of think that they showed me up in interviewing a class of 4th graders with some of their great ideas. But I think if we do get in and talk to some of the kids about the ideas that we all share, we're going to promote sustainability of each of our communities because we each have our strengths within our own community. I'm done.
Great, thanks, Leslie. Questions for Leslie? Comments?
Yes, Leslie. You mentioned a grant funding opportunity for the seniors. What type of a grant and how much was that?
Yes, we started a program called Project Independence. It started as a small program in 2 of our municipalities where we, and has grown. We now have a 311 center in the town. I don't know how much the seed money was. I will have to get back to you with the amount. But they did get a grant so that it would subsidize, and I don't know the amount, a subsidy for the rides for the taxis. This program was now started by California as well. So the seniors sign up for Project Independence. There is no cost, but it identifies them. And now we have a new department in the town called Department of the Aging, DOSA, Department of Services for the Aging, which has its own commissioner. And we're doing things like now trying to expand it to shovel driveways, and they can call in if they need help with a social worker. We can direct them to the right ideas. So I don't know the exact amount, and I will get back to you and share that with everybody by email.
Possibly came from the county, do you think?
No. This was a federal grant.
Oh, federal grant. Okay,
federal
yes.
grant.
Interested in that info.
Yeah,
Sure.
yep. And I think they also, I know they got some state money from Senator Craig Johnson to help with the project, but I don't know the amounts, so I have to get back to you on that.
Very good. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I thought, from my perspective, one of the, I think, important things that you brought out, Leslie, nicely was just, and I think this fits in with what Charlotte's point about the importance of unity across communities, is that even though communities may be of different sizes and different populations, we tend to share some similar ideas about what sustainability should be. And so I would think of that as kind of a opportunity to unite people when you really get down to some of those kind of core goals. So I just thought that was a good point to bring out.
Thank you.
Okay, Marie.
Okay. Well, as you can see, and Leslie mentioned, we did do the interview between the three of us. My vision of community sustainability is to promote a strong, well-educated, involved community, find ways to attract the young people to stay in your area, maintain a viable economic community artistically, which is vital to well-rounded, thriving community. The vision of community sustainability is to fit with your own, being open to new innovative ways to do things, promoting green initiatives throughout the community, and work toward a green community to maintain energy efficiency. Since I did this project and handed it in, we received information yesterday from NYSERDA that our community, we've been working toward grant funding for getting 2 windmills here at our town hall, and it looks like we're going to have our grant approved. We'll have a windmill here to run our town hall and one to run our highway department. So we're hoping within the next year we can get everything up and running and hopefully help out with our energy costs that way. Challenges enough. Funding is always the challenge. Getting your residents to buy into the new concepts of doing business. As we said before, with Leslie mentioned, it is tough to get some people to buy in that, okay, we've always done it this way. Why should we change? And we do have a very rural community here, a lot of older residents. We're starting to get some new, younger people coming in, but it's not as many as I'd like to see to maintain what we have here. Create a sense of enthusiasm by spreading the knowledge of how beneficial small changes can be to the community as a whole. And again, we had talked about the grocery stores with the shopping bags, to reuse their bags and to help promote green initiative there and use less trees. The activities, as Leslie mentioned, they're LEED certified community center in Westbury. And again, Betty with the Dark Skies legislation down in the town of Southold. And also the Eco-Fest that Leslie does in her area are a lot of activities that they have going on. In our community, as Leslie had mentioned, we do a what we call Cleanup Gasport. It is a hamlet along the Erie Canal, and we have a large group of citizens that come together. They've taken care of their own little hamlet. They do a barrel contest each year where they plant flowers along the main intersections, and individuals are responsible to maintain them throughout the year to try to promote keeping their area clean and beautiful. They hang up banners, and we all get together and we clean up the debris from the winter. Last year I ended up cleaning up part of the Erie Canal with my supervisor and I. Almost fell in the canal, which was a thing. So I'm kind of hoping this year they don't put me along the canal bank, but if they do, I'll go. But it's just things that we try to do to keep our community looking better here. Our role for clerks is, we've all stated before, clerks is the front door to any community. We need to use this to our advantage. We can coordinate the activities throughout our town to promote the importance of going green, speak to schools on how important it is to go green, and share how important recycling is to the future. I'd like to see setting up a recycle day here at our town. We have one countywide for electronics, which I just received that flyer yesterday, but I'd like to see one done for the pharmaceuticals, because we, like I said, do have a lot of elderly and older residents here that, you know, you go to the doctor, they give you a certain prescription, and next time you go, it's not all gone, and they change you, and we've had some issues with being dumped in the sewer system, so I'd like to see that set up here so we could recycle them on site. And I'm working with one of our pharmacists in the area to get that going this summer. So other than that, I think I'm pretty much done.
Okay. Questions or comments?
I have a question. This is Karen DeMay. Is a windmill the same as a wind turbine?
It is on a smaller scale.
Okay.
I know they had looked at a lot of them out in Ontario County.
Yeah, and then south of us in Steuben, there's huge wind turbines. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that they're looking at here for our facility are on a little bit smaller scale. I'm a little concerned, I have to be honest. We looked at this back in 2002. The company that had come out to do the studies was telling us we had to invest all this money into putting up a test tower to calculate all the wind speeds and everything. And then this other company came in and said they did everything through a GPS satellite, and they were able to calculate the wind speed. So I'm interested to see how things come out before we actually put these towers up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Betty Neville, Southhold. Marie, you mentioned that was an NYSERDA grant for the two windmills, is that correct?
Was,
yes. Okay.
Yes, it was
What amount was that, did you?
I don't have the exact dollar figure right here, Betty.
Approximate?
Approximate, I think they were $250,000 each.
Wow, okay, thank you.
I would just say two things that struck me about your summary, Marie, were just I think you mentioned mandating something, and I think that was another theme that we've seen throughout these is there's an appreciation or a sense that, and I say that because of the things that you put in opportunities, all of you put into your opportunities about using regulations as a way to move people forward. And I think it goes back to this kind of conflict between public and private interests. And at the same time, several of you mentioned what I would think of as incentives. They're not required to do it, but we're really strongly encouraging folks to do it. The idling campaign or funds to support other things. So I think it's something that's really interesting is, what are the bounds and how best can we move folks forward. The other thing that I think is really interesting about what you mentioned was just this idea of recycling pharmaceuticals. We've been seeing more along those lines up in this area, but I think for me it just raises, it kind of expands my way of thinking about what we can recycle. I never would have thought about doing that before having first heard of this. So I think it's kind of broadening our horizons about what we can do. So.
And when I started talking to our pharmacist, he was just thrilled. That it's something I wanted to look at. He says, I wasn't sure if you as a community leader would be interested in helping me out. He said, Steve, all you have to do is call. So we're hoping to make that work this year.
Great. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, Betty.
Yes, hello everyone, Betty Neville, Town of Southhold. I did the interview with Leslie and Maureen. It was very beneficial, but then when I started to do my information for the class here, I thought, oh dear, I should have interviewed someone in my community. So I did go out and I interviewed Mr. Frank Wills, who's the chairman of our Southhold Town Alternative and Renewable Energy Committee, which, by the way, in 2008, I joined that committee as part of my LAP for the 2008 CMCI. So that was a very good thing too. And I'm very excited about the committee. Let's see. Okay.
Hey, we appreciate those plugs. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's great. CMCI is great.
Just teasing.
Okay, my vision of community sustainability. Okay, maintaining existing resources and accomplishments while improving them for the future. I think sustainability really is to continue doing the successful things that you have been doing in the future and to try to improve it. And this should really apply to everything, not only what they always talk about sustainability. They always say green energy, but yes, environment by all means, but also knowledge to keep improving and learning in the future as far as the way we run our lives and politics and relationships. It really, you can apply the term sustainability to almost everything, every part of your life, and that would be a good thing. Our chairman of our energy committee is also a longtime member and past chairman of what we call the North Fork Environmental Council. And their motto, and they have a bumper sticker to the effect, is save what's left. So it's very important that we keep what we have now and build upon it and not compromise anything in the name of progress. Yes, keep what we have as far as land, water, landscape, controlled development. We have been struggling with that as far back as our zoning and planning began in 1955, 56, and 57. And I began working for the town, not that early, but time after that, in the late 60s. And I have seen the same struggle going on for the past almost 40 years in the town as far as development. And I think we've done a very good job of it here in the town, but it is a constant, everyday struggle, something you can't ever give up or turn your back on. It's there every day because we have challenges every day, every department, the planning, the trustees, the zoning, every day, they have a challenge constantly from the developers from the west end of the island. Our town, by the way, our geographical location is the very, very farthest eastern point of the North Fork of Long Island, and we're approximately 100 miles from New York City. So we have a great part of our population. Earlier when talking on the town of Charlotte was talking about Cannon and describing the attributes of the town of Cannon, I thought, gee, it sounds very much like the town of Southold as far as the challenges with development and having no commercial property or commercial economic to raise funds that way in your community. We very, very, very much the same as far as that goes. But we're constantly we have a tree code which protects trees when they have a commercial site plan, a business site plan, but they don't have one for residential. We have encouraged the town board to start working on a code for residential because fine what initially when something gets built, they don't remove the trees, but the actual homeowner removing the trees after, probably more get removed that way than they do initially. So that's something we're encouraging the town board to do. Also, organic food and controlling pesticides. We were a large farming community. However, it's over the years, in the last probably 40, 30, 20 years, it's dwindled down to the point where we have maybe just several large farmers left. It's probably maybe 3 or 4 in the whole town, whereas the whole town was just agricultural prior to that. But we had a good thing happen. We had wineries and vineyards come in. So our town is just full of vineyards. We have more vineyards in our town of Southold than any other of the eastern Long Island towns that also have vineyards. We have over 40 vineyards. So that's been a wonderful thing that the land was preserved through the vineyards and not had houses built upon it. And it also is a good thing for the commerce of our town too. We have a lot of visitors come for the wineries and so forth. Let's see. What's the other point? Example of business decisions being made in a 10-year context in Germany. Mr. Wills had, for a point in his life, lived in Germany, and he said, very interesting, he said, Americans seem sometimes to make rash decisions and judgments and so forth. He said, but during the period that he lived in Germany and he worked for this big company, they didn't really make any very, very large decisions. They always studied everything very thoroughly before they did it, which which is a good thing. But again, if you really know that this is a thing to get going on, it would be good also. Let's advance on to the next one here. Challenges and opportunities. Well, our biggest challenge was finding grants that don't require a matching fund, because we did last year and this year, about 2009, we had there was a tremendous impact on the economy in our town and most of the towns on Long Island, in particular some of the East End Long Island towns, because of the housing situation and the real estate situation. Our county tax funding that we get through the sale of real estate property has been cut in half. So, if most people don't know, but the biggest part of funding from the town comes from the tax portion that you receive from the county. So that has tremendously cut our budget in the town and every other town on Long Island, and as I said, particularly the Long Island, East End Long Island towns, because as Charlotte mentioned, we have so many people who came from New York City after 9/11. We had so many people move into our town. Well, now we don't have that turnover in real estate, and our property values have gone down a little, so the turnover that we do have, the revenue has been just cut in half. So it's been a tremendous challenge to the town, which we have had to address on a town-wide basis. And we just had, our supervisor just did a State of the Town address last week on the 18th of March, and went over all of the things that we have done to conserve and cut back on so many things that we've been able to stable ourselves, but it's going to be a challenge to retain that stability through 2010, and we just hope that we can. Another big blow to the town on our budget was as everyone knows, the New York State retirements, that we had like several extra millions of dollars that we had to pay to them this year, and that just wiped us right out. So we're hoping to maintain stability and someday to have a surplus and build upon it. That's what we're hoping for. Let's see, enforcement and compliance must be practiced and monitored. Okay, yes, well, we have a challenge with having a lot of we have a lot of illegal apartments and rentals in our town, and we're making a big there's a big push for compliance on those, but in a helpful way, so that people can have apartments in their homes and create the extra revenue for the maintenance of their home, but that it be done in a controlled way, and that all of the apartments created as a result be safe for the residents that should inhabit them. Let's see. I'm trying to look between my PowerPoint and my interview at the same time and be on the same page with everything. Sure what that was. Let's see. Okay, well, training, let's see, I think we'll go back one here. For some reason we went ahead. Education and training starting at an early age. We are going to host a recycling reuse event at the local schools on Earth Day on April 29th here. So we're hoping, we have a lot of things planned, and our solid waste managed coordinator is going to be a part of it also, in addition to the committee. And that is really the best age to start at is in the grade schools, because they will go home and educate their parents and keep them very mindful of things that they shouldn't be throwing out but recycling. So this is what we have planned. my chairman mentioned, golly, don't we have any potentially wealthy philanthropists to support some of these efforts? Well, we're looking, we're looking, and hope to find some soon, but at the moment we don't. Another thing Leslie has mentioned about the dark skies legislation in particular. How that got started was we had in our town, as a matter of fact, it's within a stone's throw of my house where I live. It's called the Custer Institute, and the Custer Institute is actually the oldest observatory, Long Island's very oldest public observatory. And they have a lot of wonderful programs going on there, and a beautiful new telescope. And they were having a terrible problem with all of the people, with all of their spotlights and everything, that they're constantly, the sky got at one point so lit up that they were unable to hold their events and observe the stars because the light was just so, it looked like daytime in some areas. So that's going to be very beneficial, not only for the observatory, but town-wide. It's going to save so much energy for everyone. So that's particularly, they're not going to go back and make people change lighting fixtures that they have. They're going to encourage them that when they replace them, putting bulbs, and then the fixture itself has to be replaced, that it be replaced with an energy-efficient light. But they will, on new construction, of course, encourage that they use all energy-efficient types of appliances and do things in an energy-efficient way. So that is nearing the stage of completion where it will be adopted in the very near future. And to go along with that, the Energy Star Code, we're looking into that also, but there are some concerns about compliance and inspections and so forth, which we have to work through before we really get going on the Energy Star Code itself. But I think a lot of people when they build it's very mindful to them, because if they choose to go in the Energy Star direction, there of course it's going to be less expensive and more efficient to maintain. Completion of our comprehensive plan. We've had comprehensive. We started in our town with a comprehensive plan back in the early '60s, and we have been updating it on several years. We did it in the '60s. We did it in the '80s. We did it in the early part of the year 2000, and now we're planning. We're in the middle of a comprehensive plan update. We're calling it 2020 Vision, that we're going to plan for the next 20 years. And as soon as that's completed, we'll work into turning it into code and passing actual legislation and codes which will support the ideals of that 2020 comprehensive plan. A very big part of that, this time we involved Hamlet stakeholder groups beginning in 2006 when we first started planning for this. And that was the most wonderful idea, because every hamlet has come forth with the ideas and the things that they would like to see in their particular hamlet, which all of them are very different. We begin at our western boundary. We have the hamlet of Laurel, of Mattatuck, of Cutchogue, New Suffolk, Deconic, Southold, Greenport, East Marion, and Orient, and then out in the Sound, Fisher's Island. So we have 10 hamlets, and they are all very, very different. And their needs and their ideas are very different. So all of that is also being incorporated. So the idea of involving the community, we have started a while back and are continuing to build on that. And that is a wonderful way to go, to involve the community and the people and try to do the things that they would like to see in their hamlet.
Betty, I'm going to ask you if you can try to summarize this quickly, and I'm sorry to
Right,
I
yes.
just want to make sure we keep moving.
Okay, let's see. I think I covered this one, so let's go on to the next one. And that is, well, I think that's it. So does anyone have any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
One thing that I know is becoming more common is this light pollution issue, which you addressed, Betty. And I know that being on a town planning board, another area that I don't know if any of you are starting to hear more about, but it's more noise pollution in terms of buildings. Big buildings do make noises. I mean, I live very close to the Cornell University campus, and because of the exhaust systems and whatnot, people are becoming much more attuned to the ambient noises from new construction. So I hadn't even really, that hadn't been on my radar screen a couple of years ago. So it's interesting how we become more attuned to different aspects of the effects of building.
Yes. Yes, well, we've been studying the noise issue for probably the last 20 years also, but we don't really have any commercial. It's what the people are complaining about are lawnmowers early in the morning, or people having a party. That's the extent of our pollution. We're fortunate in that. But I understand what you're saying, and that's a good point.
Betty, and I want to just point out one other thing that I thought was important about what you said, which was just the link between keeping your comprehensive plan current and then making sure that you use that to guide your code and keeping your codes matching it. So I think that that's something I've been hearing and thinking a lot about lately as well. So
I'm going to help be a timekeeper now. I think we have 5 presentations left. So we're going to ask people to keep it to about 6 minutes, and I'll tell somebody when they have about a minute left.
I'm sorry I went so long. I should have.
No.
Okay.
We haven't been too concerned about time because we had less presentations, but we just want to make sure we do end so you can go on to your other business at 3:30.
Okay, Valerie?
I'm ready.
Good, go ahead.
I'm Valerie Honorato from Plandome Heights. I interviewed one of our trustees who's very, he's outspoken in many ways, and so I thought he'd be a perfect candidate for an interview.
Valerie, excuse me, can you speak up a little bit? It sounds like maybe you moved away from your phone.
Oh, no, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, the idea of sustainability for our village, Plandome Heights is a very small village. We've got 330 homes. And so there is we have no commercial entities. Everything is all residential. So our idea of sustainability revolves around everybody here remaining employed. Continued prosperity, so that the whole rest of the world needs to continue doing good things, that our residents continue to be employed, and you know how we're all intertwined. Sufficient employment to sustain their upper middle class lifestyle, and so how we are affected by that is to reduce village spending, which reduces our dependence on New York State or federal resources that are dwindling, and for various reasons which we don't need to go into, and to reduce the role of government in across the board. I mean, he was speaking across the board, but even from our own village, reducing the role of the government. Maybe we don't need to be doing things that maybe people don't want or need to do, and charging people to do it besides. I can't think of an example off the top of my head of what we might do here, but further restrictions, further requirements that adds extra things, extra burdens to the people at a cost out of their pocket because of something. I know further, if you flip to the next, am I supposed to be clicking the arrow to make this go forward?
Yes. Is it working for you?
Am I supposed to just click that? Okay.
Yep.
See,
Sorry, I forgot you came on late.
That's pretty much what I was saying. The services, we use outside contractors to do everything. And we all agree in that we need to reduce the cost of these services by employing good stewardship. You know, we'll bid out everything we do. At least that's my commitment, is that I will pay attention to what's costing what. Everything from paper and pens and, reuse the pen and, don't let people walk away with my pen. Even simple things like that, it all starts to add up. Government is not, and his statement is, government is not in the business of delivering on the whims of the people who work there for things the taxpayers can't afford to pay for. Such as, can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but and we're talking about trees, and the difference would be that, let's say, the mayor wants everyone to have 6 trees in the front of their house. Yes, it's a good idea, but it shouldn't be an enforced thing to make the taxpayers pay for the trees for the people who don't want them. You know what I'm saying? To raise taxes for something so that everybody has to pay for something that maybe not everybody wants, or that trees was a bad example, and I apologize for that because we were just talking about that. But he's talking about, he was referring to the health care issues, and whoever your leadership happens to be is the leadership that's deciding on what they want the taxpayers to have to pay for. And when you have less and less people working, you have less and less sources to get that money from. So our role as our village office, we're focused on reducing our own spending by lowering the cost of operating our village. We can give that back to the residents, and they will feel it in their pockets because they're feeling us spending less rather than asking more of them. We're spending less, so we're asking less of them. About that. Government needs to focus on core services, doing the necessary things efficiently and not looking for new things to do. The rest should be left up to the people. Like, what is it that they want? Right now we have our garbage pickup is at the back door. Garbage is picked up from the back door, and that's what the majority of the people want. If we decide that we shouldn't look for new things to do as a government across the board, just because the mayor wants a particular thing. Maybe she wants a flagpole on every corner, and that's very nice that a flagpole is on every corner, but now the rest of the people shouldn't have to pay for having 16 flags in the village. You know what I'm saying? So that there is stewardship that's required, that is the responsibility of those who are running it to see to it that things don't get crazy. And I'm the clerk treasurer, as the treasurer aspect, part of what I feel is my job is to oversee the spending, but also I feel my own responsibility to good stewardship by saying, I think the people should be given the opportunity to vote on whether they want a flagpole on every corner, or a meeting place for people to eat, to create a bench on every street corner, or it has to be done in a reasonable manner.
Valerie, this is the timekeeper. You have a minute left.
Oh, okay, good. So let's wrap it up then. That's what we felt was our goals as sustainability, was to do less and to do what we do better, to do it good, to do it right, to have our garbage pickup clean and properly maintained, to give the people their the snow plowing and the things that they're paying for, and not additional services for the people running it. That was the view we took. And I'm wondering, I think my speech sounds different than what everybody else was talking about. What do you think?
Well, one thing that struck me is I think it has similar threads in terms of just kind of personal accountability and really thinking about, again, what are your current expenses and where are we spending our money, and are those things that contribute to sustainability, and if they're not, or maybe even working against it, then we need to rethink how we're spending that money, was some of what I heard and what you said.
Right.
Or, it might be that the government is this catalyst. If there's there's some new interest that the residents want to see happen, it doesn't have to be the local government that provides it, but maybe the local government is a catalyst for bringing together a public-private partnership to see it happen or something.
Right. One of the green type of initiatives we're taking is we have a preserve area, and we're going to get the wood chips from local gardeners who are chopping up trees. We're going to try to put something together where they can give us their wood chips, and we're creating pathways through our preserve using those, so it saves the gardener having to pay money to dump it, and it gives us a chance to spread the chips to make a pathway. I thought that was a rather green thing to do.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a good example.
That's it. I'm done.
Okay. Okay.
So
If anybody has any questions or comments?
Well, just a comment. I thought it was very good of the entitlement mentality and applied to both the residents and the workers. I thought that was a very good point, and to the government to spend less and maintain what they have.
Valerie, I will add one other thing that I thought was important, that was just striking. I think about yours, it was a little bit different than the other presentations I saw. Was just, you emphasize the world needs us all to do this personally and professionally, and in there I just sensed a sense of urgency saying we have to make this work. So I thought that was something that was a little bit different than other ones, and just wanted to point that out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that is a personal viewpoint that we have to get this together. We all have to stop using up half a sheet of paper and throwing it out, or flip it over, use the other side, folks. Yes, the time is now, and I'm with you.
Brenda?
Yes, I'm here. I interviewed Fred Sinclair, our Planning and Economic Development Chairman for the county. And his vision of community sustainability was to create and foster opportunities, connections, loops, and collaborations which are good enough investments of time and resources that the return on the investment advances the human condition while feeding as opposed to draining the system. One thing that I just wanted to mention, especially when he's talking about opportunities, connections, collaborations, is Allegheny County has a population under 50,000 for the whole county. In many ways, we're very fractured and segregated. One example I can think of is within our county we have 3 separate area codes, telephone area codes. And while a lot of our individual towns and villages are doing really some fantastic sustainability things, I think one thing that we would like to see is more pride and unity in the county as a whole, rather than just the individual communities, just to spread that community pride into the county as a whole. And that screen basically touches on that. Some of the challenges that we face are the development of infrastructure. One of the big ones is development of sewer and water in some areas. We've recently created 3 ad hoc committees, a communications and technology ad hoc committee. We have several areas in the county that do not have internet service or cell coverage. And we've really been working on ways the county can help assist those areas, how we might be able to bring fiber into the county. We also have an energy resources ad hoc committee that's exploring several different things. I know it's not popular in some areas of the state, but they have been looking at the Marcellus shale drilling. Our landfill is going to be closing, and it's going to be full in about 4 years, and we have recently created a landfill ad hoc committee. In all towns and villages in the county, we do take their garbage at the landfill. So once that closes, we'll have to think of how we're going to serve those people. Cost containment is a huge challenge for us, and just keeping that tax base low. One of the goals would be to increase the tax base, so taxes overall down. Some of the opportunities we have, he talked about just gaining the confidence of people and just getting, all of our towns and villages and people within the county to buy in and have county pride and developing new relationships. Communication is a big thing. We want to be able to communicate well with all of our citizens, our towns, our villages. We are underway. We are trying to bring water and sewer to a crossroads area, which we hope to develop. While it may not directly benefit some villages and towns in other parts of the county, we think that the impact on the county as a whole will be very beneficial. We're working on public relations and educating the public. I think we want to reform our image and promote a new story of working with the communities. A couple things that we did do is we are in the process of hiring a planner. Back one. They're in the process of hiring a planner. I believe he can work directly with our planning and development committee. We have a planning board, and he'll be a great liaison with the individual town planning boards. I want to focus on the development of our community hubs and the development of infrastructure with attention to our roads and bridges. We do have a bridge program with the towns where the county provides. We don't share our sales tax, but in lieu of sharing sales tax, we do have several programs, and one of them is the help with the building the bridges.
You have about a minute left, okay?
Okay. My role, or the role of this office, is just to enhance and improve communication throughout the county. I know I have several email distribution places on my email where I can distribute to, say, all the town libraries, all the town clerks, all the village clerks. Really trying to advance that. We've talked about publishing news releases, even having like a quarterly county newsletter that could include, things like recycling or how to dispose of things, and just building the strength of others throughout the county and through all of our villages and towns.
One of the things that I think you brought out, what I think others have as well, is the need to address sustainability at multiple levels. So certainly a village or a municipality needs to think about sustainability initiatives, but none of this is divorced from it happening at a multi-county region or a regional level or a state level or a national level or a worldwide level. So it's interesting that we have to sort of pay attention to how this has to unfold at multiple levels.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions for Brenda? Brenda, I just want to make one comment that I thought was important about the vision for sustainability that you shared. It wasn't just sustaining the community into the future, but you talked about feeding into that, which made me think about striving to enhance it and make it even better than it is.
Yeah.
I thought that was important. Okay, any other questions or comments? Michael?
Yes, I am here. I interviewed one individual. His name is Jeff Stribbing. He's the Community Development Director for the Village of Lancaster. As well, he's the president of the Community Development Corporation, a nonprofit organization in the village, so he kind of had both views of it from the government side as well as the private organization side of it. So,
Michael, can you remind us where the village is?
Village of Lancaster is in western New York. It's about 10 to 12 miles east of Buffalo.
Okay, thank you.
In Erie County, New York. And as you kind of see, what I thought was interesting when I first started talking to him, and first thing I asked him was, what is sustainability? And pretty much his idea, until we kind of got 5-10 minutes into the interview, was all about the economic side of it, the financial side of it. And I think you'll see that in some of the first few points here. So some of the things we talked about with the vision of sustainability is providing assistance through tax abatement, property abatement, use of other resources, and grant programs, government programs, to try and get those financial resources to encourage business owners and property owners to take on these different type of sustainable options. Also, here at the bottom with the central business district, again, kind of the financial economic side of it, minimize vacancy, create a positive outlook, promote more growth, and through all of that, that would bring in more businesses and of course, have that resources here with those other jobs and businesses to sustain into the future again from a financial point. But I think there is some opportunities there, especially with the central business district, which I'll kind of touch on here on the next slide, the first point. Considering grants to open up a main street in the business district, we have a little, it's pretty much one block right in the main central area of the village. And about 40 years ago, there was this movement of urban renewal in Lancaster, and there was this great idea. We have a pretty critical east-west road which connects two main north-south roads, and they decided it would be a great idea to block that road off and put a building there and develop it, and eventually became a BOCES building. Well, as time's gone on, what it's done is it's hindered other growth in the area, and the Community Development Corporation, which he's president, they bought this BOCES building maybe about 6 to 10 years ago. I don't know the exact date, but what they found was it's in such deplorable condition inside. They've tried to sell it to outside developers so that it could be redeveloped in that area, and no one wants to touch it because of that east-west road is blocked off, because if there isn't the flow between the two north-south corridors. So what they've tried to do, working with the village, is to identify grants, and we've just applied for one with the Erie County Community Development Program for about $250,000 to knock down the section of that building that's blocking the road. So there's the vision there to identify the issues and problems that are causing the hindrances, and if the village is able to put a road back in there, then developers would be more interested in taking over that property, and then you could redevelop that area and put in more green spaces and other alternative resources in planning with any new developer. So I think that's a great opportunity we have there. Then just touching briefly on these other points, the historic district, there's always, we have a main historic district here in our village, and whenever anyone wants to make a major change to their property, they have to come for a review. And I think incorporating some of these green ideas into that process to give those alternatives to the property owners would be a great thing to look at as well. And then again, the idea of providing most services is the least cost, again, touching on the financial idea there of save as much money as you can while getting the most in return. So some challenges and opportunities that we have, again, identifying those grant programs so that we can do some of the things that we want to do. Most every, if not all, municipalities are looking for those same type of grant programs. Some are going to be larger than our municipality here, and with that, there's going to be competition, and there's only limited resources available for a lot of these grant programs, so that's always a challenge. And then it was touched on earlier in someone else's presentation regarding social acceptance. Some people, we have a lot of elderly in the village, they just don't want to change. I'm fine doing it the way I've always done it. Some opportunities we have, updating our local zoning codes to include some of these options, that either mandating it or putting it in there that in every opportunity you should at least consider these different sustainable green ideas. And then as well with providing the training for our code enforcement officers, local builders, contractors, just to make sure they understand how to deal with all these new ideas that could be out there. If we're going to promote the idea of green technologies, we need to make sure that our workers and the developers in the community understand what they should be looking for and what is available.
In just one more minute, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Just some inspiring activities that we touched on. We used to have a local farmer market, which we no longer have. They stopped that maybe 10 years ago, and there have been some discussions to bring that back, which would be great. That touched on in earlier presentations, youth programs, educate the youth. And then there's also been a grant program through the Community Development Corporation, through the New York Main Street program, where they were awarded a grant where business owners are able to improve their facades, again, to bring a better look to the area and promote more growth. Roles for clerks, serving as the central figure. Again, everything comes through us. So if we can work with each of the individual departments to be on the same page, and also listening to the residents and taking that information to the board members and helping to assist in those, again, identifying sources in other areas. We're a centralized person to deal with all this, and we can help to bring everyone together to be on the same wavelength with looking at these ideas.
One of the things that I think was in your very first slide, oftentimes when we think about sustainability, we think about maintaining the status quo, and I think in all of your presentations, it's usually anything but that you really want to change some things. So oftentimes you do have some deplorable conditions, and sustainability is not about keeping those deplorable conditions, it's changing them. So anyway, that's, I think, something we all have to keep in mind.
Michael, were you all set?
Yep, I'm all set.
Any other questions or comments? I will just add one other thing that I just thought was important was your point that the person you interviewed saw sustainability so much from an economic development perspective, and I think it's important to remember, and this goes back to everybody's call for education, but just that I think sometimes the roles, professional roles that we're in, make it hard to think outside of certain frameworks and very easy to focus on certain things, and so I appreciate the points about education and changing paradigms. So, okay, April.
I'm here. My name is April Beccarella. I'm city clerk in the city of Salamanca, and that is down in Cattaraugus County, about 63 miles south of Buffalo. And I interviewed our executive director of the Salamanca Area Development Corporation. He has since left since I interviewed him, and we have a new person, but I'll just share some of my interview with you. Salamanca is almost entirely on the Seneca Nation of Indians reservation, and also we have the Amish community in our backyard. So our local farmers market is one example of seeking and offering products to the community that are entirely locally sourced, biodegradable, and sustainably grown and harvested. He feels that this is a good way to encourage sustainable living and a way to build the local economy. Some of the, usually when people think of farmers markets, they think of locally grown vegetables and flowers, which we do have, and that's really great for the community. But our vision is to hope to include other things like leatherwork, basketry, woodwork, rag rugs, even recycled fabric quilts and clothing, possibly products that have undyed or naturally dyed yarn work, and alternative energy products. So that's a really good idea for us. And other examples, we hope to get other community groups and, of course, residents and businesses interested and committed to participate in recycling and preserving, protecting our environment. And one idea of that, and I thought it was an excellent idea, was to institute some sort of a pride campaign. And I'm not sure how we will do that, but I know other communities have done it, and it's been very successful. And this is one way that we hope to make our community healthier and more attractive and a better place to live. Our community has done some things toward community sustainability, including we support recycling programs. Our various departments have recently had many meetings and talked about recycling and things we can do to help within the various city buildings, which was a big step for us because we've never done that. Transfer stations, so we've really started this program for all the city departments, and it's been very good. Now that we see what we're recycling, we see that it's really a lot. And we encourage the support of the local farmers markets. And we've been discussing other programs such as residential energy efficiency. We've also looked into the study of wind energy. We also have an annual cleanup day in the city. And that's a day where we encourage everyone to put out, and it is limited to certain items. You can't put your garbage out. Recyclable things, clothing, large items. And first of all, the first couple days, everyone kind of helps themselves to things, and then the rest of the things do go to the transfer station. And that really helps clean up the city a lot. We do that each year. The residents love it. They begin calling about it, and we really feel it's a very successful program. We also have an annual cleanup day that's dedicated strictly to Main Street, and we actually have volunteers go out, and they even wash windows, pick up the garbage, do little things to improve our Main Street, and that's been great. It gets everybody together. It's kind of a little social day, and everybody has fun. People donate food for lunches, and really makes a big difference. It's very nice, and we think it's a really good idea. Of course, our main challenge is to educate the general public on the importance of reducing, reusing, and recycling. And also finding new ways to make local businesses and industries environmentally friendly. And the opportunities are to identify new ways to green our local residents, businesses, and industries, and in turn make the community a vibrant, healthy community, and make our economy, local economy, more self-sufficient with the programs that I talked about. My original. Inspiring activities. One activity we discussed and that we did in the city was we created a pocket park on Main Street. We had a very unattractive vacant lot. It had weeds and pieces of cement, and we just, the local historical society got together, and we just transformed it into, it's just a park. It now has a water fountain. The local gardening club planted flowers, new trees. It has benches in it, and it actually won an award for small New York State parks, and we're really proud of it. We'd like to do more of that type of project and institute the Pride campaign and just make it active.
Okay, just about 30 seconds to close on up here.
Okay. And my role as clerk, I attend, of course, many meetings, commissions, committees. I belong to the local historical society, and during these meetings, I can suggest things that could move the community toward greater sustainability, inform the commission members on what's been done in the past, cleanup days, and also reflect some of the ideas that I learned in this course. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I will just point out two things that I thought were really interesting about what you said and important was just the emphasis on the connection between economic development and green, that if we pursue some of these sustainability initiatives, that we can enhance our economies. And also, the one thing that I thought was unique about your presentation that I hadn't heard elsewhere was just this connection between the past and the present and the roles that clerks play in that in terms of keeping their communities on track with what's been done before and what could be done in the future.
I think also just recognizing that the demographics of our communities or the cultural context of our communities play a role in deciding how a community wants to play out its sustainability role. So the fact that a large part of your community is part of the Salamanca reservation certainly played a role out here. So we're going to ask folks to give us 5 more minutes beyond the 3:30 timeline. The timekeeper, that being me, should have been playing a stronger role at the beginning, so I apologize to those of you toward the end that we've been rushing through a little bit more. We thought since there were fewer participants, we'd be just fine. So anyway, so thanks, and if you can just hang in to about 3:35. Heidi just has like 2 minutes worth of stuff to end up with. So Nancy?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, I interviewed our mayor, who happens to be a social worker, so that's always an interesting point of view. Let's see, let me poke that button. Okay, the mayor's concept of sustainability, we're sort of looking at a conceptual more than the concrete, I think. Just taking care of the present with an eye on the future. The things that she's been really concerned about have been lately flexibility in the building code. We're having, let me just say that we're a small, very affluent village on the North Shore Gold Coast of Long Island. It's only about 1,200 people, about 400 houses, and a couple of businesses. There's very small tax base in terms of commercial, that sort of thing. So there's not a lot of leeway in terms of finances, funding, etc. Small village hall, not just two people that are full-time in the office, that's it. So let's see. Her main concerns are to keep the building code so that it will we'll have integrity of the community, to keep it stable, but at the same time meet the needs of the newer generation that's moving in with kids, and as the older generation either retires or dies off. That seems to be, there's a dichotomy going on there. So she wants to make sure the building code has enough flexibility to take all those people in. The village is very, very well treed. A lot of natural beauty here. She's really concerned about preservation. The infrastructure is a problem. Keeping up with the infrastructure, just the roads. It's just a constant issue here. We have very difficult topography and drainage issues. Mostly cesspools. There's a lot of issues going on here. So she does want to work toward conservation and energy efficiency. The village in general. The general feeling is that there is a really progressive feeling here for the most part. So although there's a lot of wealth here, they are sort of progressively minded. Let me go forward quickly. My feeling was that there is really no formal vision of community sustainability here, because there is really no sense there's really no sense of community. People are mostly commuters. They work in the city. They really don't have time for, or they don't make time, or they're not terribly interested in community activities, public service. I know the Civic Association has tried to set up programs, all different kinds of programs, and there was no attendance. So that's one of the big issues, I think. And as it says here, the mayor does tend to be more progressive than most. Let's see. Let me go forward some more. Challenges, like I said, funding. Concretely, we have a preserve which could use some cleanup. Then you're up against that dichotomy where the older folks want to keep it a natural preserve and let it be. There are animals in there. It's like I said, it's a very tiny village. It's 2/5 of a square mile, so there is a preserve with a pond, and there's sort of the Disneyland factor versus the let it be natural factor, and that's kind of what we're up against. Road and drainage maintenance has always been a challenge. Getting people on board to work on projects, or to be, like I said, to be interested in civic issues. They've been discussing the creation of a local playground or park, which is funding, of course, is a problem there right now. Opportunities, well, you could also look at that as the recreational facility as an opportunity, and one of the simple things that I was thinking about was that just to get people on board through the Civic Association, try to beef up community identification and just a sense of community at all. It's amazing that I've been to some of these parties that the Civic Association puts on, and there are people that come down once in a while. You don't get a huge attendance, but I've heard people say to me, "Gee, I've lived next door to this person for 40 years, and it's the first time I've met them." Mm-hmm. So that's what we're dealing with here in terms of challenges. Okay, and inspiring activities. Okay, so we did offset our municipal power with wind power, and we are paying a premium, hopefully, to take ourselves off the grid with wind power. We had a highly effective tree maintenance program, which I don't know if you've heard about the storm that we had down there. I know somebody mentioned in Westchester that it was pretty demonic, but it was really a wild storm we had here a couple of Saturdays ago, and we did not have a single tree go down on the village right-of-way. So our tree maintenance program has been spectacular. We've removed a lot of dangerous trees. We've pruned a lot of dangerous trees, and it's just been, it's really been a boon in terms of, keeping the power on and just keeping the roads open, that sort of thing during storms. I'm just trying to go fast here.
And just about 30 seconds left.
Let's see. Anything else on that? Oh, yeah. These were the things that I felt, we're such a tiny place here. I really did feel that the clerk's role is a coordinator, and at the least a coordinator, and at the most a catalyst. Just sort of talking in broad terms. Of course, we go to meetings, we go to classes, institutes, and we learn the most from our fellow clerks, and we take this information and we bring it back when we hope that it can do the most good. So I know there's more I wanted to say, but that's okay.
Well, one of the things I think you raised, which is interesting, is can you be a sustainable community when there's a lack of community? Mm-hmm.
So it sounds I just wanted. There's one thing that I just wanted to throw in there. That at one point in time, it's a historical town. This town was developed by a famous architect, and there's another town out east. I forgot the name of it right now, but this guy developed this town along certain lines, this village, and there's a lot of homes that go back to the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and at one point, the mayor wanted to try to set up a landmark, just a sort of a
not a really strict landmarking situation, but just something that would preserve the old houses. And you would have thought that we were taking everybody's right to breathe away, and she was totally shot down. So now, when houses go, there's really not a lot to be done about it. We do have an architectural review board to preserve the aesthetics of the community, the trees. We have which is critical, but for the most part, people are interested in the economic aspects of the value of their houses and basically what they can take when they leave. So sometimes it's disheartening. I'll just put it that way. Right. On the other hand, we had a drive for medical supplies for Haiti, and people came through like troopers, and one of our residents is from Haiti, and a doctor, and brought stuff down there, and everybody came through. So there are things where people do come together, even though they may not know each other. So there's a bright side here.
Good.
Nancy, who's the doctor from the Estates?
His name is Remy Prosper.
Okay. All right, because there is another one that's nearby that I heard about. It was just as an aside.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
The only comment that I would like to offer, which kind of just hit me because Nancy is a clerk right near me, and possibly a way to overcome some of those things is through voluntary intermunicipal agreements, seeing if there's a way to cut costs by working with the town and thinking forward in that way, working together more, not taking anything away from the village, but seeing if the town could work with the different villages nearby to share services.
Okay, thanks. I have done several of those actually.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy, and thanks for coming through at the end. So, I had basically summary comments, but I am going to skip them because I really think I've done those after each. I brought out the points that I thought were important and some of the common themes and unique features of what you guys captured throughout the presentation. So if anybody would like a copy of this so you can see it, I'm happy to send it to you, but it's just really summarizing what you've just heard under each of the types of things that we asked you to capture. So I'm not going to dwell on that. Again, I just want to thank you. The other thing that we wanted to get to was just your feedback. Does anybody have any thoughts on, was this useful? Was it interesting? Did it help you better understand sustainability and think about the ways that you could encourage this? And some of that you'll be responding to both in the learning assessment tool and the evaluation, and I'll send you those links one more time. But if anybody has any quick parting comments, we'd welcome them.
Absolutely, Heidi. Everybody had wonderful points, and I wonder, would it be possible for you to share this whole a package of PowerPoints by sending them to everyone?
Sure.
They were really excellent. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Any other comments?
Yeah, really when Heidi sends out the eval, talk about the learning experience, because if we do try to package this and offer it through IIMC, we want to learn from how to make it better.
Well, thank you, and I have to tell you, the audio was so much better. I don't know what you did this time, but it didn't cut out at all.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good. Okay.
And that made a big difference in listening. Much better.
Good. Thank you guys very much for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you for all your work on this. I think that went very well.